Then a little rough stuff. Mason working on P.J. Brown. Ooh, a little elbow. Then Derek Coleman says, back off, my man. They exchange pleasantries, and the refs call a double T. The Knicks 46-39 at the half.
And a traveling violation on Geiger. 14th turnover on Miami, and Geiger and Oakley have some words. Willis, by the way, with 9 rebounds.
Let's take a look at the play. Matt Geiger gets a ball, starts to actually walk, got the hard foul
By
after
Mason,
the violation.
Yeah.
That's
He ejected. And it looks like Anthony Mason is headed back to the locker room.
But the Pacers' quality has lifted. And a foul on McLeod. Mason and McLeod bump each other. And a technical foul has been called. Let's see how Jack Madden sees it. Looks like it might be both ways. Yes, a double technical. Mason just walks into McLeod. That starts it, Marv. He just walks right into McLeod. Get out of my way, nothing. Usually when you're walking and someone is standing there, you tend to... Well, the conclusion of the play leading to the timeout, Reggie Miller.
Good switching by the Knicks. Duckworth. And Drexler and Mason have words. Buck Williams steps between. Oakley calls for the foul. You rarely see Clyde Drexler get involved.
I was thinking earlier, Marv, I don't think I've ever seen him angry. He's such a cool guy, and it is unusual, as you point out.
Kevin Duckworth from Mason. Too late. After 1, it's the Knicks 25. The Portland Trailblazers 14.
Before with Anthony Mason and Clyde Drexler under the basket. I think that right arm on Drexler's chest might have bothered him from Anthony Mason, and he let Anthony know about it, but it didn't go any further than that.
Fortunate for Harper because it happened right in front of the Chicago bench. Now keep an eye on this now. This
What a rebound. Did he commit himself?
Marley behind the back through the fouls on Rivers.
While he's going after Mason.
Marley had words with Mason, and Pat Riley rushing to center court. Ed Rush in a discussion with Riley. Looked like Mason got the tee. Let's see. Personal foul and a technical foul. Personal foul on Campbell and a technical foul
against the Bucks. Mason and Rogers got
Their last 3. Second one good. 4.4 seconds in OT.
Now you got to try for a steal here if you're.
And there it is with 3.7 seconds, and Mason and Johnson square off.
Not good at all.
And Jeff Van Gundy's right in the middle of it again.
Van Gundy is saying to all the guys on the bench, get back over to the bench. And Mason and Larry Johnson.
What is Anthony Mason thinking? And Larry Johnson still pointing at Mason, and Mason starts to come after him again. Kevin O'Neal and Jeff Van Gundy trying to restrain Larry Johnson, and none of the Heat people left the bench.
Remember what Mason told us yesterday. I want to beat everybody.
Yep.
You know, and he knew he was going to have to give a foul. Gave him a little extra Port Capital shot.
I thought, though, Jeff Van Gundy told us he wasn't going to get in the middle of anybody anymore.
shades of the I can't take it anymore game. Now, the ball.
There's the one shot and then another one. And the official, Michael Smith, is right in there.
So they're going to call a technical on Mason for instigating that.
Last key foul number 14, Anthony Mason. That's his 4th first in the last 2 minutes.
That was the first foul.
Klinik abgehalten für die großen Leute der Heat, wie man gegen die Kemba Mutombo spielen sollte. Die beiden bekämpfen sich schon den ganzen Abend, Anthony Mason und Tyrone Hill. Beides Spieler, gegen die man nicht unbedingt spielen möchte. Anthony Mason sehr muskulös. Bringt unwahrscheinlich viel Masse mit.
He didn't make it. Foul on Campbell. That's 2 free throws coming to Vlade Divac. And the roof starting to cave in on the Lakers.
Well, Eldon and Mason have been really banging bodies, and the officials are separating the two of them right now as Eldon picks up his 4th personal foul.
It's 1+1 coming. It's 2 shots. 5:16 to play.
Well, there was no excuse for what Mason did because the whistle had already sounded. Vlade had been the recipient of the foul from Eldon, so Mason should have just walked away from the play, and that's what got the sides upset at one another.
Vlade, 13 points, 16 rebounds.
Ewing. And the Knicks get the new 24. Harper pops. It counts and a foul. And Mason and McKee having words. Mason being restrained. So the basket by Harper counts and a foul away from the ball.
Mason, like his Knick teammates, has been playing quite physically on the taller McKee. Mason getting a lecture, the most intense lecture from Mason going inside, moving McKee right back. And McKee going along for the ride. The end result looked like he shoved Mason.
And rebound, Davis picked off. Oh, intercepted by Anthony. However, Norman stepped out of bounds.
Anthony caught that ball well, and then with the attempt by the Clippers to slam it off Anthony, well, we'll get another look at it now. Norman tries to slam it off Anthony, who catches it. But then Greg flips it back at Anthony, and that drew a little response, a little anger from Norman.
Led by as many as 7. And the foul call. Anthony Mason on the foul, and Mason having some words. Mason and Norman got involved.
Mason with great position down low, and he keeps battling with Norman underneath the basket and gives Norman a bit of a shove. No foul called.
Smith off the rebound. Mason on the follow. Through an air ball. And a technical foul has been called. It's on Mason.
Well, Mason undoubtedly thought he was fouled and expressed those feelings to the official, and it cost him.
Ron Harper shooting the technical. He's 3 of 4 from the line. All right, here's another look at that play that upset Mason.
Mason complaining to the official, and that cost him a technical foul.
Timeout has been. Rebound Norman. Clippers hanging it off the boards. Mason and Williams had some words.
Williams seemed to have a bigger problem than Mason did.
Mason already has a technical foul, so should a double technical be called here, Mason will be out. Let's see. Madden over to the official scorers table. He could call a double personal also, or could call nothing.
That was Ewing on the block attempt by Norman. And then the little...
It is a double technical. And that means Mason is through. So Jack Madden calling the double technical. No shots taken, but it serves to eject Anthony Mason because he was called for a technical.
Getting closer, and the action seems to be building here. Anthony Mason and John Williams, however, got into a little tussle before and exchanged some words. 2 technicals were called, and Mason is out of the game right now. Back on November 19th, we also had some sparks flying. Greg Anthony went in for a shot. John Williams KO'd him, and that ignited feelings. A lot of pushing. Charles Oakley. Mason came in to dispose of Williams, and the emotions were flying in L.A.
That a game 1. They had lost 5 in a row prior to winning 4 straight. Rivers for Oakley. And we get a whistle, and apparently a technical foul has been called. Anthony Mason perhaps had something to say to Bernie Fryer. And now Fryer discussing it with Hugh Hollins. Looked like that one came out of nowhere.
Well, that's the reaction also that Mason is indicating. He doesn't even have a good sweat yet. How could he get a technical called on him? Now Mason going at it with Divac, trying to box him out. A little pushing ensues there between the two.
Well, they just made a change. Bernie Fryer did give the signal for technical, and apparently after a discussion with Vandeweghe. Yes. Oh, we have something brewing here. Anthony Mason involved along with Chris Morris.
Mason wisely walks away.
Well, we discussed this earlier. There are some bad feelings between several Knicks and Nets. And as you mentioned, in particular, Mason and Oakley and Coleman and Morris.
And Mason carrying the "we were embarrassed" phrase into this game from the last game. Perhaps some of the Nets read the paper today and didn't enjoy the tough talking from the Knicks. Joe Wilkins piling his way inside. Mason battling for position. Morris behind him. And then Morris swinging that arm around to get rid of Mason. That started things. Ball.
Starks. John Starks with a pretty move. That's 82. The Knicks 74. All Mason and Bowie eyeing each other for the presence of Mason, and the foul is called on Mason, and he gets an earful from McGuire.
Well, earlier with Anthony and Mason up the floor, Starks is fouled and have the beginnings of a beautiful rise to the hoop. Now Edwards and Mason exchanging some trash talk.
It looked like he'll get fouled hard. On that play, that looks like an intentional foul.
All right, Tom, it is obviously it's so difficult to follow news of that nature. And as we return to Madison Square Garden, tempers flaring between the Rockets and the Knicks with 49 seconds to go in this first half. Here's another look at it while we were away.
And as Olajuwon just tried to gather himself and pick up the basketball, he either inadvertently caught Mason with an elbow in the chest or head area, or intentional, and Mason popping right back up, wanting to go at Olajuwon. Cooler heads trying to prevail. Nobody has thrown a punch yet, as the officials trying to figure out what they're going to do about it.
Well, it appears they have called a personal foul and a technical foul on Anthony Mason. And Kenny Smith to the line.
Here's Olajuwon, not able to get his shot off here, and as he tries to clear himself, catches Anthony Mason in the jaw with that padded left elbow. And Anthony Mason feels this is intentional as he tries to clear himself, but there's not a lot of room to move there. And Olajuwon trying to clear himself, but nevertheless, Anthony Mason didn't want anything to do with that kind of elbow and let Olajuwon know about it.
20-second timeout. Here's Horry. Oh, look out. Oh, he went down hard. Robert Horry slamming to the floor.
Let's go. Come on.
And good to see that he is able to get up, and apparently is okay. Assistant coach Larry Smith out to check him out.
A little give and go to Robert Horry as Anthony Mason comes over to try to block that shot, and the feet go out from under Robert Horry here as he goes hard right on the backside and in the lower back area, and he bounced hard, but fortunate for Robert Horry and the Houston Rockets, appears to be okay.
And a flagrant foul was called on Anthony Mason, so Horry to the line for the two, and then possession goes. Looking at that spill by Robert Horry, the same thing happened going for a loose ball in Game 5 of the series against Utah.
Anthony Mason very unhappy with
Mason ahead of the field, and he's fouled by Horry. Fouled hard by Horry. You'll recall back in Game 4, it was Horry fouled hard by Mason. It was called a flagrant foul, and Horry hurt his lower back and his wrist, and now John Starks had something to say to Robert Horry, and this is being called a flagrant foul.
And John Starks and now Maxwell are being interesting to see what Anthony Mason feels about this, as Robert Horry clearly unable to get up high enough to block the shot, took the arm and took Anthony Mason hard to the floor.
The technical is called on Starks and Max possession. It was Otis Thorpe who was most upset, as you take another look at the hit by Horry, most upset about the Mason hard foul on Horry in game number 4. And 2. Here is Mason. Ewing soaring for the rebound. And they will jump it up as Mason hits the deck along with Herrera. Back in the third quarter.
Anthony Mason getting in there, trying to come away with that offensive rebound, getting all tied up.
Jackson. Look out, Mason and Chambers starting to go.
Well, Chambers doesn't know about it. He just turns around and runs up court.
The basket counts. And a foul called on Mason. Con Fitzsimmons wants more.
Well, Mason off the bench a moment ago, lower left side. You see Mason having an effect on Chambers, certainly. Chambers on the ground at that point.
In the fourth quarter, Danny Manning, high man for the Clippers with 21. Mason with the step, and he's fouled by Manning. Helped turn the game around in the fourth quarter. At the 5 unanswered points, a teardrop, and then the three-point play. Oh, a hard foul ushered by Williams on Anthony, and Oakley and Williams looking to go. Mason grabs Williams from behind. Mason pointing fingers. Mason trying to get away from Norman. Hey, it's perfectly understandable what
what the Clippers did. I mean, Greg Anthony is out there throwing his body around, and there's got to be payback. You can't accept that.
Well, getting back to the point of frustration that you mentioned moments ago, this demonstrates it quite clearly. But Marv, what preceded, I couldn't see exactly the play that knocked Anthony down. I knew he was fouled. But why does Charles Oakley, as he often does, stick his hand in the chest of another player after the whistle and push him?
Well,
where does that go?
That was a reaction to...
it happens all the time.
But that's a reaction coming to the protection, I think, of Anthony. But I can certainly understand the Clipper reaction on Anthony, who was hit with an unsportsmanlike earlier, and then was hit with that flagrant foul on Harper. Here's another look at it.
Williams.
I've gotten a little reputation in the league. I mean, Jordan says these three guys talk more than anybody in the league who has never won a championship. And I even caught you at the end of that game when you're knocking the Bulls around on Saturday, going over, saying a little something to Jordan, saying a little something to Pippen. What were you saying? See you Christmas night?
I was just reminding them of me being one of the cockiest players in the league.
I think the Bulls are a little afraid of you. The little chat with Jordan, a little chat with Pippen. Did Coach Riley pick up on that, or you didn't see it?
No, I don't think he really picked up on it.
Because that was in the last minute of the game. I just happened to notice you go to Jordan and to Pippen and have a little... Last couple of minutes, there was about 5 minutes left in the game. As a matter of fact, it was way out of hand.
Just had to let him know I was there.
Mason misses, gets his own rebound, and gets fouled and exchanges words with Isaiah Thomas, who thought about throwing the ball
He
out.
has a lot to hold himself back. Isaiah's bursting. He wants to go at Mason. And he's coming. He continues to come. Mason has a shield of Knicks around him. And Isaiah will not let up.
Little playoff carryover, perhaps?
And Ron Rothstein, knowing the competitive fire of Isaiah, is right out there to contain him. Now it's turned into smiles.
Both coaches on the floor.
Rodman tough. Denies that shot attempt by Mason. Mason, however, with his strength, goes in and gets that rebound. And he's missized and then gives Isaiah a mouthful.
Well, John, how about Mason winning that battle with Rodman in position to grab the rebound?
Tremendous strength of Anthony Mason made it happen.
Well, you remember what made the Bad Boys famous a few years ago. And Mason fails to seize the moment. 35.5 seconds to go. Starks with a word of encouragement for Mason, his benchmate. And the Knicks lead 92-88.
Friendly gesture by Starks to Thomas. With what he's seeing with Ewing on the bench.
Here's Starks. And a loose ball foul is called. Oh, Mason shoving the ball into the chest of Thompson. Herb Williams called for the foul. There is no great love between several Knicks and LaSalle Thompson. Remember the incident last year? LaSalle Thompson got involved with Xavier McDaniel
and other activities to make himself stronger and ready for these situations.
Oh, Ewing and Smith started to go. Davis looks to get involved. Schrepp also very angry. Patrick Ewing and Rick Smith. Will there be any cause for ejection because no punches were thrown, just pushing and shoving? Well, they say double fouls, and Ewing will go to the bench after picking up his fifth under 5 minutes remaining of the game. Starks. Oh, he's clobbered by Davis. And here we go again. Anthony Mason went at Dale Davis. Greg Anthony steps in. That's the second time tonight that John Starks has been hammered.
I think it's ridiculous, Marv, that every time a player gets hit, a Knicks player has to go over and defend the situation. It's just a tremendous overreaction. It's unnecessary, and it only ignites further problems. Who's the tough guy? Is everybody a tough guy? So he got fouled.
Well, I don't agree with you here. Well, I think this is it's gotten to the point, even though the Knicks are a very rough, physical team, Indiana's trying to send a message, but you got to protect the player here. How are you protecting him? Well, you got to show that you got to show that you don't accept this.
You do it at the other end.
When a player, that's easy to say, but in the heat of the action,
I don't know. Yes, I agree with you partially, but it's just getting sickening watching this constantly. Everybody flexing their muscles after a hard play.
That's a bad foul. That's
no worse
bordering on ejection.
No worse than the other fouls the Knicks performed too.
I say the Knicks are certainly guilty.
He was trying to draw the foul. No call made. And Mason leads the break. Mason all the way. Foul. Oh, and shoved by Mason. Rodman took a little push from Mason that could have brought forth a technical.
Well, it's been a physical game all day as Pippen and Ewing had collided. Strong drive by Anthony Mason and a good block, it seemed, by Dennis Rodman. Got a lot of ball. Referee ruled that there was a turn to the other way. Getting ready to get right into the face of Dennis Rodman. Could have been a taunting situation and just a little shove, but Dennis Rodman making it look like a major league push.
Mason with a little contact with Rodman, more than a little.
It's a 24-second violent Anthony Mason in a shoving match, and that leads to Joe Crawford with the double technical.
Fourth quarter, and the frustration scuffle breaks out between Otis Thorpe and Anthony Mason. A couple of technicals result from that little skirmish.
Followed by Mason. He's rejected. Vandeweghe follows. He lost it off his fingertips, and they'll call a foul. It will be a loose ball foul on the Knicks. What a sequence. Anthony Mason call.
I'm interested in Mason and Laimbeer.
Oh, that has potential.
Yeah, well, Mason is a very quiet guy. He just gives.
Driving the baseline and drawing the foul. No basket.
Mason getting a little pushy there, first time with Rodman, but he wisely walks away. Mason going one-on-one. The bump was called before the attempt.
And now Mason is playing Johnson aggressively, and a foul. Pushing and shoving between the two.
Mason doesn't like the fact that Larry Johnson's been doing as well as he's been doing, and he's going into phase 2 of his style of play.
Team to win the season series and only team in the NBA to beat the Knicks 3 times. Many think the Knicks dug their own hole by way of the LJ trade, although some don't want to discuss it.
Anderson baseline.
Pretty.
P.J. Brown rocks the rim. Well, the kid, that run by P.J. Brown. Now, he was going to go down and through if he didn't catch the ball, would have opened the lane. But here, coming to the goal, the ability to get in the hole. And there's been some chatting going on. They all read the same papers, don't they? And listen to the same radio shows, too. And then Mason down at this end continues a little whooping. And he took P.J. to the hole on this end. And Mace better watch out. He's still jawing with David Jones. He's going to get another one. The whistle went to the mouth of Jones. He was about to blow it for the second technical foul, but Herb Williams stepped in. But he's such a factor during the game. I mean, he's been doing a wonderful job offensively against P.J. Brown. Relax. It was a bang-bang play. It didn't go your way. You'll get some.
Quick look at some of the highlights from the Meadowlands. A not-so-friendly rivalry developing between these two teams. Anthony Mason and Rick Mahorn exchanging pleasantries.
Davis draws the foul. That time he took it to the hoop.
And I think he heard Pat the first time, but let's go back a moment ago to when Charles Smith thought he was going to get a sore. Instead, he winds up shooting it over the top, comes up with it himself. You're not allowed to do that. It's got to hit the rim or backboard before you can go get it.
And Anthony Mason and Rick Mahorn just had some words. The last time these two clubs met, the The Knicks winning 108-94 here at the Meadowlands in mid-December. It was a very testy game.
Pat Riley mentioned to us prior to the game that Chuck Daly has instilled a defensive attitude in the Nets, particularly over the last month. Well, isn't it interesting that this guy coming off the floor, Rick Mahorn, just happened to show up a short while ago, part of that great defensive team from the Detroit days.
And just a moment ago, Anthony Mason whispering a sweet nothing in the ear of Rick Mahorn. A little pushing and shoving.
He just asked him how he enjoyed Italy. How was the food over there? Did he have a good time? And it's nice to have you back in the NBA.
So rough and tumble. More like football. And don't tell me Mace couldn't play pulling guard for the Jets in a pinch, because he could.
Anthony Mason upset with something and feverishly discussing it with Pat Riley.
Stretch run, and the Knicks will have Anthony Mason back tonight in Seattle. He returns from a team-imposed 5-game suspension after a little tete-a-tete with Pat Riley a few weeks ago. Riley decided that Mason's behavior and his attitude needed some adjusting. Well, their problems have been well documented over the last couple of seasons. Do you agree with Riley on this one, Bill?
Yes, I do. The coach has to be the king here, and this has not been an isolated instance between Mason and Riley. The coach is not the player's friend. The only time that friendship comes about is at championship parades and your Hall of Fame induction ceremony. But this is a situation here where the New York Knicks players have seemed to have forgotten where they were before Pat Riley got there. He made this team, the Knicks, and his job is unfinished at this point.
No, you know, I think it's not going to hurt him in the free agent market. When he becomes an unrestricted free agent after this season, there are already teams that need him. Houston to name one, Chicago to name another. But, you know, this guy is needed. I mean, this guy's a wild card. He reminds me of Super John Williamson and Andrew Toney when they played with Julius Erving, and Maurice Lucas when he played with Bill Walton. These guys are unpredictable. Yeah, the coach can't control them, but the other team can't prepare against them, at least not totally. They fear him.
Okay, well, if he's a bit of a wild card.
Really being abrasive at the same time.
Now, I'm going to be tough and I'm going to be aggressive. That's just my nature. But when you come back to the bench and in the huddle, that's not your opponents. You know, that's your team. And you should be able to flip the switch and learn how to relate to your team in a different manner. You know, some people will accept it and some people won't. And they shouldn't have to accept that. You know, it shouldn't be your excuse or your crutch every time that we're in a heated battle, I'm competitive, my fault, you know. You got to learn how to come and speak. That's like if you was in a fight out on the street, you're not going to come in and talk to your mother in an abusive way. So you got to come and flip the switch and just be mature and professional about the situation.
About putting your body on people and contesting against people. I mean, if you just out there, you shoot, I shoot, that's not basketball. That's just you out there practicing. And when you're out there competing against another team, it's going to be a physical game.
Probably after the game, there'll be a little celebrating because Anthony Mason, he with the new contract, of course, celebrating his 29th birthday. And, of course, when Anthony played in Turkey, Mary Mason, his mom, didn't get these seats, did you, Mary?
No. No, I didn't get these seats.
What do you get the young man who's probably got everything now for his birthday?
Well, I got him a statue of a basketball player, like throwing the ball and has his number on it with two fellows around him.
That sounds very nice. Now, when he was a little guy, did you ever have to hit him to get him in line?
No, all you had to do with Anthony was yell at him.
Did that work?
And tell him he couldn't go out.
Really?
That's all.
And now Don Nelson has told him to go in.
He wasn't a child that you had to spank. He loved outside, and you tell him he couldn't go out, that was all.
Was there ever a bully in the neighborhood that he was afraid of?
No, never.
Not surprised?
No, never. Because he was always bigger for his age, you know, so no, it never was any of that, no.
I'm a very aggressive nature person.
Sounds like a job for Anthony Mason to me.
Just as easy as you receive success, you can lose it if you don't work hard.
The pride he takes in his defense is what really makes him special.
Going through a certain amount of failures, you achieve a work ethic, and I think it was all stepping stones for me.
A guy that really slipped through the cracks coming out of Tennessee State.
You never forget where you came from.
Played overseas in Venezuela. We saw him in the USBL. He's been a terror for New York.
I think going through those experiences and that adversity, they do find a seed of equivalent benefit in that. And that equivalent benefit is that they get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier, and they don't give up.
Thinking Mason. Oh, what a slam and the foul!
The product of Mason's work ethic.
is that he's garnered Riley's complete confidence and bolstered his own.
The full confidence was here with the Knicks because they were looking for a player who could just play, not where he came from and what he did in the past and what people said about him. They wanted the person today and what he supplied for the team, and that gives you confidence in yourself when you know a team wants you for you and not just to be a piece to a puzzle or something like that.
Throughout this season, and especially now in the Knicks championship drive, Anthony Mason has become an integral part of the team's success. And if New York does overcome the Bulls and ultimately win the title, a key factor will undoubtedly be the aggressive play of Anthony Mason.
Anthony Mason with a spectacular drive. What a move!
It's all pluses for Anthony Mason. And despite all of Mason's success, he still keeps things in perspective.
If you keep working on something and never give up and keep working hard, then you one day will be successful in anything you do. So that's really what it means to me, making it finally in the NBA with somebody that, you know, wants you here, somebody that appreciates you for your talents that you have.
Forget about him. He was going at half speed, and that angle was wide open for him. Here's Purdue. Oh, he is hit. Hit hard by Mason, who looks to challenge Purdue. I think he stuck his tongue out at him. Purdue took a swipe at Mason. Pat Riley trying to break it up along with the officials. Anthony Mason was taunting Will Purdue, and Michael Jordan trying to settle it down. That's Bush League if Mason did that. It is a flagrant foul on Mason. So Purdue will go to the line to get 2+ possessions. Second flagrant foul called on the Knicks tonight. Looked like Mason had the tongue out after that to incite the reaction that he got. So he got the worst of it with the calls.